Hi there, Taurus. This is your weekly tarot card reading for the week of November 23rd. Yes, it's late, and I'm sorry for the confusion as to which channel these videos would go up on. By now, you've probably noticed that all 700 and something videos are missing from my other YouTube channel, Rita Yanez, and that now they are going to reside permanently at Rita Yanez TV. The decision had nothing to do with any technical problems or issues with any Google products whatsoever. They've always been really great to me. Their technical support on many, many levels is amazing. I get to interact with the developers, and that is very, very interesting and educational for me. And the product that caused these problems, you'll hear more about it next year, which we knew that there was some risk involved in what we were doing. And that risk was not supposed to extend into my videos, but it was a real eye-opener. There's a lot of information that we're going to try to get together in a kind of expose next year so that you can understand part of what this is about, which, you know me, I'll get baptized every which way, get into every which thing, investigate any building and or person to get information. And so it was enlightening, and it was also enraging at the same time. So anyway, this is where you'll find these videos from now on, and I just have to really watch to see how they're populating everywhere to make sure that they get out. But thank you very much to the many of you that have written me, tried to get in touch with me, even on old websites, through old blogs, and so I will try to answer as many people as I can. Obviously, I'm not going to have a lot of time to get back to hundreds and hundreds of people that have written me, so I'll do my best to just express things as I go along. And I also want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving wherever you are in the world. I hope that you're in a safe place, and I hope that your family and your friends are also safe and that you're all at peace. The world really needs a lot of love right now, and the last thing we need is more division. So don't forget to just give your friends and families, people, even some strangers, if you feel inclined, some extra love. Give them a hug, give them a high five, tell them that you care. You know, just smile at somebody, even if you're not used to that. And if you're not the person that's easily able to smile at another person, I hope that someone smiles at you and lets you know that you are wonderful, unique, and valuable also. So Taurus, the card that you've drawn for Monday is the Nine of Swords in reverse, which I'm glad that this card shows up because I know you've had some difficulties in the past that were actually quite challenging, especially on levels associated with contracts, disputes, loans, repayment terms. These issues were highlighted for a really long time because when Saturn was doing its tour of Scorpio, that's directly across the sky from you in solar astrology. And because I can't see your natal chart, I don't know what house your ascendant is. I don't know what sign, what constellation, zodiac is over that. So when I say solar astrology, that's me putting Taurus on the ascendant for the first house and then just basically going counterclockwise in order. So when that was happening, Saturn was in your seventh house of partnerships, agreements, close friendships. It could even have been business associations, marriages, divorces. There's a lot of this partnership energy that was really just being tugged and pulled, and knowing that you're famous for digging your heels in, it's actually a valuable trait in a lot of different ways. This was not easy for you to work through. So, you know, I know people, Taurus sons who were going through situations where they didn't know that a legal matter was pending, or they were refusing to cooperate in legal matters. And so no matter what, the result was the same. Unfortunately, I wish that I'd been consulted. A few of these people would have consulted with me because I could have helped them work it out so that they wouldn't have been digging their heels in when the court is reeling you in. You know, there's a lot of things that we don't have to like about our personal situations, but the moment we start going up against a system that is going to go by determinations that are made, even if you don't appear in court, you know, if you don't show up, you can't defend yourself. If you ignore it and rip up a summons, it goes on without you. So I know quite a few of you have had some difficulties with that. Now that Saturn has moved to Sagittarius, that's your solar 8th house. The 8th house is the house I call death and taxes. These are the fruits or results And at times it's not always the best result we want, but it always shows up here. Anything having to do with an agreement, whether it has to do with your marriage, your romantic partner, your dating relationship, your business association, whatever it is, that even if it was an old marriage that was dissolved and there are still remnants and strings that are not yet tied up, of course, Saturn was going to make it inevitable to deal with. And I'm going to mention an experience one person had without alluding to who they are, that there was a particular debt. No, it wasn't necessarily a fair situation, but it was a debt that was incurred. This person received some notice that the creditor is actually taking them to court. The respondent to the petitioner, okay, so the person who incurred the debt, did not believe that this was really happening, and she got rid of it. I don't know if she destroyed it, tore it up, chewed it, burned it, and then she was very surprised when her wages were being garnished. And I said, what part of this did you not understand needed to be responded to? So you can imagine she wasn't happy. And then instead of just getting that thing paid off, well, then she wanted to reduce her hours at work so that the state would not, or excuse me, the creditor would not be able to garnish her over a certain amount. There's like a particular threshold. See, and at that point, I understand, that some hours that would be worked would just result in more money being paid to the creditor, but at the same time, the debt would have been paid off sooner. So I want to say this to you, that it isn't worth fighting if you have a long-standing legal issue. I know a person with a legal issue that is, I almost want to say it's 20 years old. And no matter what, it isn't necessary to keep fighting this. I would just make it go away in whatever way possible. Whether I'd have to take half my butt cheek to sell it, and I would just want it over with. So just remember now that Saturn has moved into Sagittarius, into that 8th house of death and taxes. And so this is where Saturn is saying, get rid of it, handle it, make good on it. If your debt is not with a friend who can be lenient with you or understanding your situation, then you just need to go by the terms of the agreement. Sometimes we throw money at attorneys to help us, and in the end, the money that we throw at the attorneys could be thrown at the creditor, and the creditor would probably make a deal to take a reduced sum before you get to court, right? So obviously this isn't going to apply to everyone, because I don't know if your ascendant is Taurus. You may think it is. I'm, of course, doing this for Taurus sun and ascendant or rising sign, but I don't know the degrees and I don't know the placements of your chart. I don't know where the objects are. So just remember that this could also be where there is an active divorce happening with people, or there are business partners that are trying to create an amicable solution. And remember, in divorces, there's never any winners. It just needs to be done. And the sooner we do that, and I'm not chiming in because I don't understand, I do understand, because a lot of you know that I went through a divorce that not only took 2.5 years to get the stupid piece of paper my ex-husband kept coming after me, until just it's coming up on 3 years ago. And even within these 3 years, another family member by extension keeps coming at me from his side. And because of the difficulties and the traumas it's caused my kids and other people in my family, we can't really do anything with us. It just won't go away. And I had to recently tell a family member of mine, I say it goes away now. Now there's nothing more to talk about. If my ex-husband ever wants to apologize, it really isn't for me. He needs to apologize to his kids and see what we could do with this, right? But, sometimes there are people that are actually going to hold on to something and keep fighting it actively, like coming after other people, and that's really not the best way to handle things. Sometimes it works out like mine, that no matter what I did to try to make it better, it just wasn't going to get better, and that was a lesson I needed to learn, that I couldn't make it better for everybody. There was very little control I had over that. So for those of you that are not involved in an active divorce or negative situation like that, it could be that you're recently married, or that you're married starting a business together, or you've got a business partner that you're starting something with. Just keep track of what's happening, because when Saturn is in a particular house, that is a very long stay. It takes approximately 29 and a half years for Saturn to make it around the zodiac. So it spends approximately, what is it, between 2 and 3 years. It really just depends on how many retrogrades there are, if any. But remember that whatever you start at this time has a real potential for staying in place for a really long time, and it could be almost impossible to dissolve this later. So make sure that you're conscious and aware of what you're doing. The Nine of Swords obviously is going to talk about contracts and agreements, and as you know, today, the 25th, when this is being recorded, we have a full moon in Gemini, which is your solar second house of assets, valuables, tangible assets, material items, possessions, your couch, your clothes, your watch, your washer, your dryer, your dog, in a sense, because even though the dog falls usually somewhere in the 5th and 6th house, we can see that. And when you're partnered up with an animal and that's your roommate, they do show up in the 7th house. But just for all intents and purposes, even the dogs, dishes, bowls, everything you buy with the money that you make in your activities that are either based in the 6th house, which is the house of work and daily activities, as well as other areas of life. It could also be the money that you make in your career in terms of retirement funds, pension plans. Maybe you're not actively working, putting your hands on the grindstone, but you own a company. It still is kind of filters into what you can buy, and it ends up in the 2nd house. So that full moon there was probably bringing some issue of material possessions, items, assets that are tangible and physical, and or some discussion about it. Now, the reason why this is not the most fun full moon is because it's across the sky from Saturn in Sagittarius, where the sun is opposing the moon in Gemini. That's a hot opposition. And so we get emotional reactions to things. We get people losing control. And I could tell you something. I love my mother more than anything, but you have not seen a person be stubborn. A person who embodies the most specific Taurus traits in that sense. So don't do that, because it makes it difficult for other people to work with you too. If somebody just, yanks your chain and wants to start something with you, you may not really have any recourse. But remember something, and the younger you are, the more I want you to pay attention to this. It really is never worth losing your temper, which will affect your health and could cause you some serious health damage, because no one and nothing is worth that. Okay. So now my mother, I was telling a story to some people here and there about how recently I was able to actually ask her, Mom, why are you fighting? Why is everything a fight? Why do you raise your little fist and it's war against everybody? And she really broke down crying and expressed that if she doesn't act this way, if she doesn't come across as strong and impenetrable, that people will see her weak side, and in essence, everything is going to hurt her more. She'll be more sensitized to it. This is something that she needs to obviously come to terms with, because just because you feel like you need to get angry so that you're fighting back, per se, they are not worth it. No one is worth it. Nothing is worth it. So just trust me on this. The sooner you can learn that situations that could piss you off that much are not worth digging your heels in and fighting back, the longer you'll live and the happier you will be. I promise you. It doesn't mean that you don't defend yourself when you feel like there's a need to, but keep it civilized. Don't lose your mind. Don't make threats. Don't hurt your body. Don't get pissed off. It really isn't worth it. I could tell you from experience, because remember, we're all part of every single constellation. So I've got Taurus in my life. You've got Scorpio in your life. We all have parts of us where objects are that reflect these energies. So I'm not pointing fingers to say, well, you Taurus are all stubborn. You haven't seen me on my most stubborn day. It would probably scare the crap out of you. I've just, I've had to take my own advice, as big a pill as it is to swallow at times, and not fight back. Just say, that's enough. We're done with this. I retreat. It's okay if you think I'm tossing up a white flag. It's okay, whatever it is. So just remember, you're more valuable than any other situation is. If somebody hurts your feelings, touche. If somebody keeps trying to come after you and hurt your feelings and you can't get them out of your life because it's a relative or something like that, I totally understand, but limit your exposure and fill your time with butterflies, kittens, and puppies, whatever else soothes your savage beast and makes you feel better. So I totally understand that this has not been the easiest full moon, and for a lot of people it will be much more difficult. But remember, we all experience it one way or another, some on different days, some on similar days. But remember that this is just one of those complex houses, and that this is not the week to get into confrontations with people. Trust me that I love you, and I'm telling you it's not worth it, because even if somebody does say something stupid to you, I guarantee you it's going to blow over very, very quickly. You will see. Trust me on this. So don't let it be a thing. How about that? So on Tuesday, we've got the Six of Swords in reverse, which is, again, kind of an issue here that has to do with communications, has to do with agreements. Maybe you've got to revert back to a situation that you really didn't want to. You've heard me say before that this is the card in reverse of out of the frying pan into the fire. It could also mean that you wanted to get away from a particular nasty situation or agreement or contractual element that you wanted to get rid of and you can't. Well, maybe don't see it as having to turn tail, put the tail between the legs and crawl back. Look at it, even if you have to go back on a situation, you have to give into a situation, or you're not happy about the way something's going, look at it as a means to an end. Even if you have to bite your tongue practically in half, and I really don't recommend you do that, but think of it as just a means to the end. The end should be peace. It should be personal satisfaction and personal happiness, harmony, and health. And of course, for the greater good of everyone else involved. We don't want to be like some of these crazy people in the world, hurting other people in the name of something they think is religion. What has that done? It makes us all hate religion. And then we just want to hold hands and sing Michael Jackson songs. I just want to feed the world and make it a better place. I'd like to give you a Coke and sing to you, about it. So really, this is part of the evolutionary process, but it's really not worth struggling about the details as long as it just gets you to what is safe, sane, peaceful, and manageable. Okay, so don't look at it as having to go back on your word or getting pissed off about something that's pointless, and it will be solved, even if it's an ugly debt, right? And you're like, I don't want to pay this damn debt. Well, do you want to extend this whole thing? And when if you just get it paid off, or start the process, or say, hey, look, I can only give you God, I never have any money, but if you're thinking I can only pay this creditor $10 a month. Well, if you tell them that, then if that's all you can do, then that's all you can do. I know what it's like to be in a rough financial position, because I'm a single mom and I'm choosing this, and yet it doesn't make my life easy or comfortable. It just has to be this way, right? So I can only do the best I can. And sometimes that's meant going without a lot of things that other people can't even imagine. You guys have known some of my stories. I've been homeless. I've been without shelter. All of this because I couldn't fight my ex-husband on something he did, because it was my fault for putting a house under his name. So there's all of these different things that I've experienced. So I'm not at all throwing shade, saying, get your damn debt paid. No. Sometimes these things just happen. We just want to make it go away as soon as possible. So don't stretch it out any further. Okay. Don't keep pulling it out. Find a way to get at least an agreement in place before the end of the year. Plus, we go into the Mercury retrograde shadow. Almost all of January is going to be Mercury retrograde. So don't be trying to figure it out in January necessarily. I would just start trying to make that approach and be very nice. I have to even tell my mom this too. Remember to be very nice. Do not be combative. Say, hey, look, debt collector, I totally understand you're doing your job. And if they get crappy, just in one ear and out the other. Just when they say, well, we're coming after you because well, they can't take your ass from you. Okay, so let them know all I can give you is $10 a month, and don't be giving extra information that you don't need to give. You don't need to give them your phone number. You can block your number on the way out. Do not give them your address. For $16 here, at least in the United States, every 3 months you can get a P.O. box so that nobody shows up and harasses you. So just do what you have to do, okay? On Wednesday, we have the Justice card, and the Justice card here upright is good in that it lets us all know that even if we don't like the situation or the other party doesn't like the situation, it will be fair and balanced. I can tell you that there are times that we all feel like a situation isn't freaking fair. But when the Justice card does show up upright, you can feel confident that it is fair in the eyes of the law. And that's what we have to remember. No matter whether or not we like the laws, you can go stand on Capitol Hill and start with a bill and go through that whole thing. But the truth is we do have to follow the rules as they are. And if you can go out and change the rules, more power to you. But remember that the system is what it is. And no matter how much you and I have a bitching session about how messed up any part of it is, it doesn't change anything. Again, what does it do? Starts the whole system fired up. Here comes the stress. Here comes the fight or flight. Here comes Taurus fighting. This is an argument that's not worth the stress on the heart, the mind, the organs, and the body will start pinging you everywhere because it says, hey, stop this stimulus before the brain takes a hit. So remember that it doesn't have to be necessarily what you believe fair is, but I can guarantee you the Justice card means that it is fair. That full moon again in Gemini in your second house here with the Justice card, at least this is where you could say, okay, so this is where the turning point is. This can't be worked with. I refuse to drag it with me next year. I'm not going to let this ruin my holidays. I'm just going to go with it and find my peace, my balance, my center, my happiness somewhere within me. Because trust me that there isn't an object, a bank account, a thing, a denomination of currency that could make me happy if I am not happy already. Sure, $100 could go buy a bunch of groceries and it could, pay for things your children need. But if the stress becomes insurmountable, what's it worth? You can get help from churches and from organizations, and you don't have to be a part of their religion. I know even like with the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, you don't have to be, and they're not going to try to convert you into anything. They feel better. That's part of their personal belief system to help you if you need help. And if you say, hey, hi, and they might direct you to the ward that you belong to or in the area where they are, because they have little territories. We're going to take care of these people here. So remember, ask for help if you feel you need it, because it doesn't mean that you have to be a Catholic to ask the Catholic Church for help. Okay. So on Thursday, we have the Seven of Cups upright, which is good because, of course, it gives us hope and inspiration in the creative. We just have to make sure that we're not looking at things unrealistically, because that's part of what comes with the Seven of Cups. Now, remember that every interesting book, every story, play, movie, every object, device, invention, creation, or even wonder drug was somebody's idea first. And with that imagination, they turned and took it to the next level and started to bring it into reality. So use that Seven of Cups to enjoy yourself on Thanksgiving if you celebrate this. If not, we'll be all thinking of you anyway, because this is about giving thanks for the good things that the Indians, which would have been the real Native Americans, although I don't even know if they considered America, they didn't name it that, but we're giving thanks for the goodness and the hospitality that others showed the early settlers when they could have just died. They did not know what to do when they got here. And yeah, kind of wetback style, right? They showed up illegally. They asked no permission. So remember that. The next time you hear somebody talking about illegals, remember that if the person is not an actual Indian, like a Cherokee, something such as this, or even a Mexican Indian, then nobody else has any right to be here, honestly. So I wouldn't bring this up as a discussion at the dinner table, but you know what I'm saying? Just remember, it's a time to give thanks and not to create divisions and boundaries and to tear us apart. It's giving thanks for the people who accepted the early settlers. They weren't my ancestors, but they could have been, right? On Friday, we've got the Four of Cups in reverse, and the Four of Cups is talking about almost making peace with this slightly disillusioned perspective. I know that sounds a little complex, but just hear me out on this. The Four of Cups upright usually indicates that a person is not moving forward. They're letting the regrets take over. They're still contemplating the past. And in the reverse, of course, it still is a matter that could be considered disillusioning, or it could be that the situation is not the happiest, but you can make peace with that. You see, you can say to yourself, hey, so it didn't work out the way I wanted, or I was trying to date this girl or guy, and they're obviously not responding. I feel rejected, but I realize that it isn't rejection. It's just we're not compatible. Why would I want somebody to date me if he doesn't like me or she doesn't really feel that way about me, right? So it is good because it is making peace with this sensation in order to move forward. So I know you won't be stuck there. On Saturday, we have the King of Swords, and the King of Swords is talking about an individual, may very well be an air sign. So this could be a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, or just somebody who comes across with the traits of the air signs. And by profession, this person could actually be an attorney, a surgeon, a dentist, lawyer, barrister, solicitor, accountant at times, especially if they're the kind that can represent you in front of the Internal Revenue Service, that kind of thing. So there could be a professional. This could also be someone that you are acting more like, that you get yourself together and that you feel like now you can go forward, you can move forward in your own truth without having to force feed it down anyone else's throat, or becoming defensive when you see another person expressing their opinions, right? I love my mom, and I talk about the way she responds to things, and she knows not to bring certain things up with me. You don't want to even get her started, but she does understand, even if it's been difficult for her to get to that point, she does understand that just because she feels a certain way doesn't mean that other people are wrong because they don't feel that way. So this could be actually where you're getting it together and you realize this, because the King of Swords, he doesn't mince words, but he is very fair. So even if we don't like this person and they come in the guise of a CNN journalist, that you can feel pretty certain that when it's CNN, this is definitely not Fox News bullshit, right? So this person might say things that you don't agree with, or you feel like you're embodying this person and that other people won't agree with you, but you know where your realm is. I try to remind people it's like picking fights with people on their own Facebook pages. If you want to pick a fight on your own page, pick it on your own page. If you really want to feel like fighting, right? Little fist in the air or something, but you don't go to somebody else's page and start talking crap. I mean, it's like so embarrassing when people do that. It took me a long time to be able to basically smack people down so that they would understand that they don't have to engage me. And then sometimes I have to proceed something with like, this is not open for discussion. This is not a forum. This is my page. And so this is where you might actually be feeling this way. You might have finally realized that, hey, look, I know what my opinion is. I'm so secure in my opinion that I don't have to argue with anybody. I don't have to argue with an adult, a child, a granny, a grandpa, a doctor, a lawyer. You just have your own opinions. And when you get to that level, and when you're actually feeling that you're confident in your beliefs, you'll see that you won't feel like arguing. If you're a secure person, you don't need to argue or defend your point. And then if you do this with people who are very secure, they won't argue back because they already know their stance and their position. For those of you that are going through divorces or separations, it could mean here that you've got an attorney involved in one of your sides, whether you're the petitioner or respondent. It lets me know that the attorney is very fair and will be able to cut through things and to help negotiate these difficult and possibly contentious points of discussion. Arguments, right? They can be barroom brawls, but this is the person who's going to just get right to the chase and say, hey, look, we're just trying to get you divorced, and to make sure that everything goes right? Don't show your anger at an attorney, because they are not really, and they'll tell you, right, the moment you start showing anger in a courtroom or in front of the custodial evaluators or in any way, what does it make everybody think when there are children involved? We have an angry person. That's not healthy. So even if you have to vomit in the bathroom on the way out of your meetings, then vomit in the bathroom, but don't ever let them see you angry. On Sunday, we have the Death card in reverse. So there is definitely some situation where a transformation is trying to affect itself, or it's impending, this could mean that there's a little bit of resistance to it. So let's say somebody who really cares about you and loves you sits down and says, hey, look, let's use the divorce issue because that's a pretty heated one, right? You don't have to like this divorce. I don't want it. Okay, you don't have to want it. But it is what's going to happen. When one person wants out, that's what we've got. When they don't want to work it out, that's what we've got. Yes, the kids are going to be bounced back and forth, and we want that. We want the kids to move easily from one parent to the other without problems. As soon as somebody starts talking about one parent or the other, what do we have? Problems. This person may be the King of Swords and may present himself, most likely a male, it could be a very masculine female, of course, maybe trying to get you to understand that fighting it will do nothing but cost money. Perfect example, somebody I dated who was arguing with his ex-wife over a freaking popcorn machine. And he said, I want it back. My mother bought it for me. And I said, is it vintage? Is it an antique? Does it have some serious financial value, or is it just an emotional thing? And I pointed out to him eventually. I said, you can buy another one right now. Do you want me to give it to you? No, that's not the point. Well, the point is it was costing an average of $400 an hour to argue the damn popcorn. I would have been like, here, let me put a bow on it. You could have it right now today. Let's not argue about this. And then his ex-wife, it was ridiculous, was arguing about some worthless cell phones and wanting to stay on a contract, or, it was impossible to port the numbers out. There was some issues there. And I was like, why can't these people just get another cell phone? He's the one that will be left with the contract. Ain't nobody going to pay these things. So remember, if there's a transformation that needs to occur on whatever level, allow it. Don't fight it. Fighting feels good when we got all this adrenaline. That's what a punching bag, a real punching bag, not a human, a punching bag, exercise, a friend to vent to. If you have somebody like that in your life, whether it's a professional or personal relationship, but don't argue about the things that don't matter, because in the end, what happens, Taurus? We all die. We all go home to the same place. We all can work these things out. They're not issues that we're going to be really worried about on the other side. So it's worth nothing to just encumber your life and make it hellish down here. Let it go. If you have a situation where you're arguing actively with the romantic interest, well, then make a decision as to whether or not this is even healthy. If your bad times outweigh the good, or even comes close, dude, this is the thing you got to think about. So keep that in mind. The main issue here, I think, is that this is a rough week because we've got some very major astrology that's activated again. It really is nothing more than just the Neptune-Saturn square that this happens about every decade, 9-10 years-ish. And this week it's triggering situations from the past. Look back, think back at 2007, not for too long though, just what was going on there in 2007. What are the elements of this that are causing you anxiety? What are the elements of this that are causing you to remain in denial about it? What do you just need to face and get it over with, right? What do we tell little kids when they're having nightmares and they think there's a monster in the closet? We turn on the light, we love them and kiss them and hug them. We open and inspect every drawer, every crevice, so that they see us inspecting it. Now remember, their kids are usually sensitive to the paranormal, and they could be actually seeing things that you don't. So we never discredit children. What do? We try to make them comfortable. If they want the light on, they get the light on. If they need to sleep in bed with mom and dad, they get to sleep in bed with mom and dad. Or you could even make this easy and buy a little inflatable mattress or a little portable cot. If this is something that is disrupting everybody's sleep and peace, then solve the problem. Don't create more problems by saying, get in your room and stop waking me up. You're just going to create a child who has animosity toward you, sooner or later. So in the same vein, just face whatever those things are and deal with it as best you can. You don't have to oversaturate yourself in whatever these things causing fear or anxiety or denial, but treat yourself with the same love you would a child, right? If you feel like it's just too hard to bear and you can't face it, talk to somebody gentle who can give you, Taurus, the kind of mothering that maybe you need. And it can come from anything, from a human to a dog to a tree. Male or female hardly matters, as long as they've got that maternal or paternal, very gentle, loving instinct, right? If you've got a little dog and your little dog makes you feel better, then grab your little dog. Remember that the dog can pick up on your anxiety and your issues, and you sure as heck don't want to be angry around an animal, because why? Causes them anxiety and it makes them very, very unhappy. So pick up your puppy, do whatever you need to do. And remember, this too shall pass, and it will turn out to be a great beginning of the year. So let's just get to handling the issues that are stuck and won't move forward. And even if you have to say later, Rita, look, I was able to get this out of the way. I made the concessions. I backed down. I gave up. I gave in. I gave more than was required to make it go away. And you're going to be a hero in my book there, Taurus.